has everything.
Bumping and banging.
Big Boy's Neighborhood. Good morning to you and yours, ladies and gentlemen. All righty. Chris Hansen is in the neighborhood, man. Crime Watch Daily, Chris Hansen. First off, I got to say welcome to the neighborhood.
It's great to be here. I know we've done this before on the phone, but
Yes.
I've always wanted to be in the studio with you guys because I love the experience of being
Man,
here.
let me tell you, bro, you're one of those faces and voices that the world knows.
Yes.
You know, like even as soon as you start talking, I'm like, man, that's Chris Hansen. You know, like we've had so many hours of television with you, Chris. And now that I see that, and when you popped up with Crime Watch Daily, that's my show before you got on. So now I'm like, it's even more so.
It's a perfect show for me because, you know, I can do my signature interviews, enterprise reporting. We're going to do hidden camera investigations, and we've got the new Hansen versus Predator investigation, which is a part of Crime Watch Daily.
So Hansen versus Predator. Now we've known you from, of course, was it Dateline? A lot of our
Yes,
introduction,
To Catch
of
a
course,
Predator. Yep.
and then To Catch a Predator, which is one of those things that amazing work. How did that come about?
I was talking to a friend of mine who's a reporter in Detroit, and he told me about this online watchdog group called Perverted Justice. And they would go online, and if an adult hit on a decoy posing as a child, they would post the picture and identity on their website. So you go there and see who's doing what. And I thought, wow, if we could use them as decoys and wire a house with our hidden cameras and microphones, this could be pretty compelling. And, it, you know, it was a big story. Getting in trouble online in those days, and still is. So we did it. We did the first one in Long Island. And I'm driving out there, and I'm thinking, what if I've just wasted tens of thousands of dollars of the network's money, and nobody shows up? And suddenly my producer calls and says, where are you? We've got 2 guys scheduled to come by in 45 minutes. And it was just one after another. In that first investigation, 17 guys showed up, including a New York City firefighter.
Wow.
So imagine in those days, we merely used decoys in chat rooms on AOL and Yahoo.
Mm-hmm.
Well, today, the entire landscape has changed.
Yeah.
And you've got all these social platforms where kids are communicating, sometimes anonymously. Adults know that, who want to prey upon these children, and it's as prevalent as ever. Our last investigation, the one that we're currently running on Crime Watch Daily, 11 guys surfaced in 3.5 days in Fairfield, Connecticut, ranging from a Boston insurance executive to a guy who was on the waiting list to become a cop in Connecticut.
Oh my God!
When they popped his trunk, they found a loaded gun, a knife, duct tape, and a camera. And he was there to take a 13-year-old girl for a ride.
Oh Lord!
I said, what are you going to do? He said, I was just going to show her around, take her to the beach. I said, what are you, the welcome wagon?
Yeah.
You know?
Do you ever just as a father, possibly an uncle, a human being? Did it ever disgust you, the people from all walks of life that walked in, Chris?
Again, in this last investigation, we had a guy come in to meet a 13-year-old boy. I had met him on the commuter train between Connecticut and New York City.
Wow.
He was a regular on the train. Yes.
What?
Yeah. Did he have a conversation with you, or?
I saw the monitor, and I said, geez, that guy looks familiar. And I didn't put it together. So it came time to go out and confront him, and he sees me. He says, Chris, no, it's not what it looks like. You can't do this. And the crew just thinks that he knows me from television.
Right.
And I said, that's a guy from the train.
Oh, no.
That is really scary.
And these guys, out of the 11 in the current investigation, 8 of them have already pleaded guilty.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot are going to do prison time.
What about it would be times, Chris, when soon as you walk in and say, what are you doing? I'm like, oh my God, this is the beginning of the end right here for you. When they ask, can I leave? You're like, yeah.
You're free to go.
You're free. You're free to go.
What's going to happen? That's not up to me.
Right. Are the police outside? I don't know.
That's not up to me.
Right. Crime Watch Daily with Chris Hansen. What do we get from Crime Watch Daily now, Chris?
Crime Watch Daily is a combination of investigative reporting, really powerful interviews, and we show law enforcement both at its very best and when there are issues. We lay it all bare. And we've got, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, an hour a day. So I've got time to devote to these stories. We've got a great cast of reporters and producers involved. And they're out there every day, hustling around the country, sometimes the world, coming up with stories you won't see anywhere else.
Now, there was one story that I know that came up. and I'm pretty sure it's about to air, but it's about the lady who had been raped
Yes.
20 years ago.
Emily Winslow.
And they never tested her rape kit.
She was in college, was raped, never found the guy. They had the rape kit. It sat on a shelf someplace for all these years. She moves on with her life, becomes a very popular crime writer, a novelist. And every year she would check on the status of this case. And a dogged detective had stayed on it, and they found the kit, they tested it, and it hit in the data bank.
Wow.
And they found the guy, located the guy in New York. And the cops start to investigate this. And they couldn't try him because the statute of limitations had run out, which begs the question.
Oh.
There's no statute of limitations for murder. Why should there be one for first-degree criminal sexual assault?
Yeah.
And they said that, of course, it hit with him. And did another lady come up as well that his DNA was found upon as well, or
There was another case in question, yeah. Exactly. So,
Wow.
the guy had obviously committed a crime, which got him in the database.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how they hit it. So when
man.
they finally tested Emily Winslow's rape kit, it hit in CODIS. CODIS is the national database. So that was him, but they can't prosecute him.
So he's walking around.
He's walking around.
And that'll be one of the Crime Watch that's coming up soon.
Coming up this week.
Oh.
Good Lord have mercy. Chris, people got to recognize you everywhere you go. It has to happen, correct?
Once in a while, I can put a ball cap on and not shave.
Oh, okay.
As long as I keep my mouth shut.
Yeah, because once you start to speak,
the voice, rats me out.
Yeah, man.
when you start to speak, it's Chris Hansen 1,000,000%. Now back to just what we've known you for as well with To Catch a Predator. Has there ever been one or many cases where you just felt so irritated that you wanted to do something about it?
Look, I'm a parent. I mean, my guys are older now, so they're out of the danger zone there. But, I have nieces and nephews, and you see what potentially would have happened to a 12 or 13-year-old kid had it not been us, had it been a kid. And it does happen. And there have been, high-profile cases where, boys and girls have met somebody online. And, these kids think nothing of these apps.
Right.
And they use them. And they're apps where you can just go on, and it randomly hooks you up with somebody to talk. Not necessarily for sexual liaison or anything, but it just socially. But if you're a bad guy and you know what's going on in this app, you can easily be put in contact with a 13-year-old kid.
Mm-hmm.
How many people do you think come in to these houses that you guys set up that you've actually said, we got them away from possibly hurting a child?
Well, I think there's the potential in every case. I mean, they're there for a reason.
Right, but how many people showed up? Do you have a guesstimate of a number?
Oh, throughout all the investigations?
Yes.
It's about 320.
320 people.
And for each one of those guys, there was a guy we chatted with who didn't show up for whatever reason. Either got spooked.
Right.
Or was just, getting off on the chat and not really intending on never showing up.
Had you ever felt like it was dangerous for you being in the house? Even though I know there's security that could run in from somewhere.
Right. But the security is very, very, very good. But there have been a couple times when I've been out of position and come face to face with no obstruction between us and seen the guy tense up, a Navy guy who's much more built than me. And this could go a couple different ways.
If they don't know
not good.
Chris Hansen, and I've seen the show, who do they think you are sometimes?
Well, sometimes they may think I'm the father.
Right.
The cop.
Stepping out in the suit, not beating their ass.
Funny story. They caught a guy in Florida in an FBI sting, and the first thing out of his mouth was, "Chris Hansen's not here, is he?" I said, "No." He goes, "Oh, thank you." This guy's going to go down, in a federal investigation, and all he cares about is, whether I'm there, and he's going to be on TV.
Chris, let me ask you this: legally, how does the consent work? Is it because it's a news program?
Because it's a news program. Because there's no reasonable expectation of privacy. It's because we're capturing a crime as it's being committed. It's
wow. So there's absolutely
So it's not a prank show or just out to embarrass somebody. The crime of solicitation of a minor online has occurred before they even show up at the house.
Yeah.
So in most states, that's really what they're charged with. It's more of the transcript and the chat that happens prior to his arrival that gets him than it is my conversation.
And you know what, Chris Hansen, you'll start to see everything unravel because we already know.
Yeah, I've got the transcript.
Yeah, when you start reading the transcripts and it's like, did you say I want to? And then when you read it back to you, like,
yeah,
are we done? Like,
I never said that. I never said that. Like,
yeah,
come on.
like
it's
on,
right
bro.
here. Yeah.
Man, Chris, like I would watch that show like, oh my God. And now that I have babies also, I'm like, oh my Lord.
Well, and now in the Hansen versus Predator investigations, I mean, the technology has advanced, from we did the first one in 2004. Wow. So now, 12 years later, we have better cameras, we have better microphones, we have better data mining. I mean, we know a lot about these guys before they walk in the door.
That's what I told you when just on the last one. It was the guy you were like, "I'm Chris Hansen," and he's like, "No, you're not."
I said, "My hair hasn't gotten that gray. It's gray, but it's not that gray."
Like, oh no,
I still have it at least.
Yeah. Crime Watch Daily with Chris Hansen. We get a chance to see you do exactly what we enjoy seeing you do.
Well, I appreciate that.
And so, what do you see in the future? As far as investigations, of course, the Crime Watch just covering up, kind of really covering stories that you guys are bringing to the forefront of things that already happened. And we're like, man, like.
We try to take the viewer inside these investigations,
Yeah.
Whether it's a murder mystery, whether it's an investigation. And we did a little thing Friday in Queens, New York, where we had people posing as salesmen, with counterfeit designer purses. And they would come up, talk about it. And it wasn't trying to pinch people for buying a counterfeit bag. I mean, that's illegal, but, that's not what we're about. What we're about was people's personal safety. And in a number of cases, we saw women alone walk up to a van, don't know anybody involved, to look at the designer purses. Now, somebody could have snatched them like that. And so then we had a security expert there who then would counsel the person on, hey, you just can't be walking up to a stranger in a van. You've got a purse. You're well-dressed. You're a physician. You're a target, potentially, of a crime here. Hey. And so we do it without embarrassing people, but it's also kind of a teachable moment. Right. So it's everything from that to the murders to the other investigations. I for instance, this heroin epidemic.
Yeah, man.
I mean, I'm going to dive deep into that. And I was just at the International Association of Chiefs of Police conference out in San Diego before I came up here. And in every city in America, St. Louis, Detroit, Cincinnati. In Cincinnati, a month or so ago, there were 174 heroin overdoses in 6 days.
Wow.
Jesus Christ.
Hot batch came through.
It is the most craziest growing epidemic right now.
I mean, when I was growing up in Detroit, I mean, it was, jazz musicians and junkies, and they moderated their habit, and it wasn't good, but, they survived. Now, with this fentanyl and, the high quality of heroin, and the kids are getting hooked on these opiates, prescription drugs. And I've talked to kids who, play in college in Ivy League football, and they get an injury, they get on the drugs, they can't get off, and they can't afford to buy them. The script runs out, and so they turn to heroin because it's cheaper, and once you do it, I'm told, you're constantly chasing that first high.
That's what they say. One too many, 1,000 is not enough.
Yeah.
Huh? Do you feel like with all your investigative work and just your field, does it make you a little nervous or just more aware?
I think aware. I mean, part of the goal here is to educate people. And if you understand how a criminal's mind works, whether it's a predator, sexual predator, financial predator, whatever it is, you can better protect people from becoming victims. And that's part of this too.
How exhausting is it after you do like a, Chris Hansen versus Predator kind of thing?
Oh, it wipes you out.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I mean, you're ready for bed if you can fall asleep.
Right. Yeah.
Now, the other day, somebody said, an interviewer talking about Crime Watch Daily said, is there anything that keeps you up at night? I said, yeah, getting 200 shows done in a year.
Right, because you're working a lot.
Yeah, it's
right
good.
now.
We have a great team and on Crime Watch Daily, and then I also do a show for ID channel, Killer Instinct. So we just got renewed for a third season there. So that's
good Lord, so many dark places. What do you do to relax?
For real.
Work out a little bit, get on the Peloton bike, play a little tennis.
Oh, okay.
Get on the water.
Yeah, right. Okay, I'm just wondering, do we need to exchange phone numbers with everybody here? Like it just seemed like just the overload.
It's a great question. I was in the West Coast for the Television Critics Association meeting last year, or 2 years ago when we introduced Killer Instinct. And a reporter with Gannett who had covered me for a long time said, did you ever go to therapy or anything? I said, no, everything's all capped off. It's deep, dark. It's all sealed right down there. I don't want to go down there. It's nice. It's fine where it is.
If you're in like a little town or just a town somewhere, and you pop in to get gas, do people ever think like, oh my God, he's here for an investigation?
Oh my God,
Yeah,
what are the
yeah,
cameras?
that's happened. I mean, I was one time shopping for something around Christmas time in New York, and the guy's showing me the item, and sweat is coming out of his forehead.
Oh no!
And I said, are you all right? Are you okay? He goes, yeah, you don't have a hidden camera on me right now, do I? I said, no, man, I'm just trying to get a last minute gift here. You know,
Are you like
calm down.
wondering like what did you do wrong for you to be
Yeah.
that
Right.
nervous?
Yeah, but I mean, literally
Oh
sweating.
my gosh.
Man, because what about if you go to do an investigation
Right.
and you're in a town somewhere? Do you have to stay hidden until you get to the location?
Well, we try to keep a low profile, obviously.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to advertise that you're out there, and so you know, you're working most of the time anyway.
Has
Because-
social media ever come between something where somebody will hit up like, you know, because I remember even on To Catch a Predator, somebody had posted something where it was like, you know, be
Hansen's
careful.
doing an investigation in Long Beach, California. Yeah,
Right.
that happened. Yeah, I mean, we still had 19 or 20 guys show up,
Oh,
but
geez.
you know.
Have you ever did an investigation where someone didn't show up?
Oh yeah. Like I said, probably 30 to 40% of the people who chat never come by.
Right. But I'm talking about a particular location where it was just dead.
No,
Wow.
No.
Have you
So
ever
scary.
had a lady show up?
never.
Oh,
And again, I'm not a psychiatrist, but
Huh.
what the profilers tell us is that when it comes to a female predator, you're more likely to see the teacher-student scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Female predators don't like the anonymity. Male predators do.
Jesus.
So we've never, in all the years of doing it, all the different investigations, have never seen a woman show up. Now, it's happened, and I wrote a book on, the whole predator issue, and we profiled the case there where it did happen. But mostly what you see is the teacher-student scenario.
Has there been one or any that were just the most to you? Was there one where the guy was like a priest or
There was one where the guy was a rabbi.
a rabbi? Yeah.
And he showed up in a suburb of Washington, D.C. to meet a 13-year-old boy and had sent, graphic pictures of himself to that decoy. And, we confronted him, and ultimately he was prosecuted and did like 6 years in prison.
I love how all of them is their first time.
Oh, yeah.
It's always the first
And
time.
maybe in some cases it is,
Could be.
but if you talk to psychiatrists who study this sort of thing and they interview inmates that get nothing out of telling their story, I mean, they're in for long stretches, or if not life, they will tell you two things. One, if they got caught once, it was probably their fourth or fifth time. Two, there's a direct correlation between being a predator and viewing child pornography.
Man, and I would just see some, Chris, where people would show up with their kids, or even in the interview where you'll sit down and they're like, why would I be here? I have a 13-year-old daughter. And I'm like, you piece of stool.
Well, we had the guy show up in Fort Myers, Florida with his 4 or 5-year-old son.
Yes.
And it was stunning. I mean, he was the last guy on the last day of the investigation. And, these guys who work with me, I've worked with for years. I mean, we've been in the darkest corners of India and Africa investigating all kinds of crazy stuff. And some of these guys had tears in their eyes watching this guy walk in with his little boy in his hand. And I came up to him and I said, in confrontation, I said, I know why you're here. You know why you're here. I'm not going to put you through this with your son. Why don't you just get out of here? And the police arrested him.
Right.
His wife's at work.
Oh, my God, bro.
You would think with how far we've come, with how long we've had the internet, all the specials that you have done, that parents know how to teach their kids to protect themselves.
But technology moves so quickly.
What can parents do now, though?
Well, I think you have to familiarize yourself with these apps. And I think the basic rule is if you don't know the person in real life, you shouldn't be chatting with them online.
Right.
I mean, that would be my first thing. And then you have to have an age-appropriate discussion with your kids. When your kids are young, I think you say, look, there are places where you can go to chat with people, but there are adults out there, not like your mom and dad, not like your uncle or aunt, but there are adults out there who try to trick kids, and kids don't like to be tricked, and that resonates with them.
Yeah, because even with my kids now, my son is 9, my daughter's 8, and my daughter, she does the Musical.ly thing.
Right.
And before she posts anything, we got to make sure, like, every video, if she do put something up, It's okay. It's not in the house. It's not crazy. It's not, but then what happens at, 9, 10, 11, 12, there's always more social media, more apps.
It goes on and on and on. In fact, I was talking to one of my executive producers yesterday. We were in an editorial meeting for Crime Watch Daily, and he told me about this app that I didn't realize existed. And I'm not some tech guru. I'm just a reporter or anchor, and I try to keep on top of it. But his 13-year-old was on this thing, and it was an app where you just go on and it randomly chooses a stranger for you to talk to. And he didn't do anything inappropriate.
Right.
Nothing bad happened. No adult approached him. But, my executive was like, hey, look, you got to know that this is, something you got to be very careful with.
And you just don't know. There's so many things out there,
It's
Chris.
ubiquitous. People always say, well, how many predators are out there at any one given time? And came up with a number that we heard someplace that got, attributed to the Justice Department and ended up it wasn't. I mean, there's no way of knowing is the honest truth. But it's international. It's ubiquitous. And it's not going away.
One thing I did want to talk to you about was the scammers. When you did the one with did you guys see that with
the
Nigerian scam guy?
No, I didn't see that one.
Oh my God, man. Just when you as a viewer, just when you sit there and you do know the story,
right,
and what's about to happen, and you get a backstory, and and just sitting there for one. When it comes to scammers, Chris, though they live totally in the dark, like no one,
and they're hard to draw out.
Yes,
I had 2 producers working for months and months. I'm talking like 10, 12 months just to get these guys to the point where they would meet us in London.
Wow.
Which means somebody from Nigeria had a contact in London, and this guy showed up, and I was posing as a wealthy guy who invested in, Broadway plays. And we were in the theater district, London, and we rented out this pub, and we had it every day from 9 until 6. And so the ruse was that I was part owner of the pub. So we have these guys come in. It's all wired with hidden cameras. So the guy sits down, and I said, "Do you want a beer?" And has a beer and takes a sip. And I said, "Now, there's something I got to tell you. I'm not rich to money. I am Chris Hansen. I'm a reporter in the United States. And we know that you're trying to scam me out of millions. What do you have to say for yourself?" And he slams his beer down, sweating profusely. And he's caught. He's right there. And these guys get away with it more often than not, because if they don't get the money, they don't get the mark set up, they just go on to the next person.
Right.
But you're right. They're operating from
the
darkness.
the cafes and the emails. Do you know how many times I've been like a prince or sent? I have to send
So
some
I've
money.
had the emails during these investigations. I had them come to my NBC email address.
Yeah.
Now, you would think that after that investigation, they would have a picture of me hanging up in every cyber cafe in
do not go to this
Europe,
guy.
Africa, wherever,
Have you ever been like threatened or anything like that?
There have been some moments where, I felt,
But no one has ever said
no.
Oh, okay.
Well, I shouldn't say that. They somehow got the home phone number one time, and they put it on the internet, and I mean, it wouldn't matter today because nobody picks up the home phone.
Right.
I mean, who did?
The hell is
that
that?
phone hasn't been picked up in 10 years.
Like, what is that? I thought I was on the no
Weird
call. My
noise.
no call expired as
You
well.
know, we had the trap and trace up, and the police were over at the house, and the kids thought it was CSI.
Damn, trap and trace, Jesus.
Wow.
See, these are the things you can get. I mean, we can sit up and
that
say,
trap
hey,
and
they
trace.
tracing this call, but that's just okay. Well, keep going. They're tracing the call. We're like, shut your ass.
What's the most high-profile case that has fascinated you the most? Maybe not necessarily something that you've investigated, but just something that really captured you.
Well, there have been so many. I think one of the most enduring mysteries is obviously John Benet Ramsey. We're up on the 20th year anniversary of that case. And I just don't know. People have theories. We did a bunch of stories on it because of the anniversary. Other networks, other shows did as well. And, people point the fingers at different folks who could have been involved in it. I honestly, even as an investigative reporter, I can't tell you that I have a clean hunch on this case.
Wow.
Because every time you think, okay, all right, the
This
ransom
person.
letter is suspicious.
Right.
So and so said it matches so and so's handwriting, but it's all inconclusive. And so the interesting thing is one of my colleagues at ID, Lieutenant Joe Kenda, who does Homicide Hunter. And he was a homicide detective for many, many years. And he goes back over these cases. He's a great guy, great detective. And about a month into the JonBenet Ramsey case, he gets a call because he also worked in Colorado. He said, hey, we need your help on this case. He said, I don't want anything to do with it. I'm going to tell you two things. You're never going to solve this case.
Wow.
And your chief's going to be fired within the next 9 months.
Wow.
And he said that a month in?
It was, the crime scene was so contaminated. You know, because they came in, Boulder had one homicide in 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just a lack of experience there. The first thing they should have done was, okay, seal it off.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the girl's body was found down in the basement or furnace room. The dad takes the tape off and, you know, hugs the body. I mean, all things that can be explained. But it was a totally contaminated crime scene. And he was exactly right.
Wow. And here we are 20 years later.
And I was out there. I mean, I can't believe it's been 20 years. I was out there covering the story.
Good Lord. Big Boy's
Big
Neighborhood,
Boy.
Chris Hansen. Definitely want to thank you for coming into the neighborhood and hanging out with us, man.
My pleasure.
We got to do it again.
Absolutely. Anytime. I love it.
All right, well, we'll do it again tomorrow. Or what I do is
I'll
after
be
I
in New
watch
York
it,
tomorrow, but yeah.
Well, we do it by phone. That's we do a Crime Watch Daily. I'll just start to call you
Anytime.
like, man, that one had a curve in it. I couldn't believe that, man. For those out here in L.A., man, Crime Watch Daily, KTLA 5 at 11 a.m. And I think I catch like a rebroadcast.
In
or
the afternoon,
yeah,
like in
around,
the evening. That's when I catch it.
Yeah,
I love
man.
it.
Oh, my gosh, bro. And then when I saw that you were, because Crime Watch was already my show.
Right, right.
And then when I saw that you were connected to it, and then I just happened to one day see like Chris Hansen versus Predator, and I'm like, oh no. Remember, I don't know who I came in. I was like, dude, Chris is back.
Yeah, I remember.
All right, Chris is back.
I would love to see Chris do something with people who sell fake sneakers, like fake Jordans and fake like that. Like nowadays,
Yeah, 'cause they did the purses.
since the shoe game is very popular now, like I would love to see
So
that.
you talking about online?
Yeah, like there's a lot of people online that sell fake Jordans and fake
Really?
high-end
He
shoes.
just wants you to do it because he's a victim.
Yeah.
Or even the apartment.
But you know, I found this out. A friend of mine's son, who's you know 13, 14 years old, 14, 15 years old. They go online and they collect and invest.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And so they'll buy them and never wear them.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And then they'll resell them when they become
Really
rare.
high
It's a
price.
whole
Yes, it is.
It's a whole
industry,
world.
it's a
there,
cottage
too.
industry out there.
You should
There's a
probably
bunch
go
of
do it.
scammers
I will.
everywhere, though.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Go, if he didn't sound like he was going to go do it.
Well, I'm happy to do
gonna-
it. Yeah, put it on the list.
Yeah. Get a line behind
Put
all
it
the
on
other
the
stuff.
list.
Right.
Right.
You know, but
There's
you know,
so
one of the
many
things on
things.
this show is that we encourage viewers to go to the website crimewatchdaily.com and give us a tip
Oh,
or tell us
dope.
something. I was at a charity event, a week ago, and a guy was telling me a story about a big case in Texas having to do with that aerobics instructor who was murdered in church one morning. She was in an empty church, and he told me the story and said it's fascinating. And he had a theory on it. I said, look, I don't have a pen, I don't have a paper. We're at a fundraiser for Susan G. Komen in San Diego. Go to crimewatchdaily.com and attach my name to it. And sure enough, a producer came to me yesterday and said, hey, this came in. I said, well, it sounds good to me. Let's pursue it.
Wow.
So we'd like that interaction with the viewer.
That's awesome.
Chris, I thank you for coming
Yeah,
into
man.
the
Thanks
neighborhood.
for having me,
Big Boy. I
It is our
appreciate it.
pleasure, man. Y'all stick around y'all radios, Big Boy's
Big Boy.
Neighborhood.